I can see angels, Marty. I can see angels.
You've been drinking the Halfins before, then again, Justin. You've been on the Halfins. I'm on the tea, you see, because this is a respectable time of the day.
Okay.
Water. See, this man's an athlete.
We've got Ross Morrison. He's the man, the myth, the legend behind the Scotch bonnet.
Yeah.
I thought a Scotch bonnet was sort of like a lady's headdress.
I thought it was a pepper that made your rear end burn after you ate them. But maybe the whole lot. Ross, how are we?
No bad, yourselves.
I can't complain. You've come up with something, Ross, that potentially saves vast amounts of money, is ecologically friendly, and more importantly, stops the wasting of whiskey. Would you care to elaborate on this? Ladies and gentlemen.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, about I don't know how many years ago, in the mists of time, our main business is building whiskey bonds, new maturation units. Whether we're taking old buildings and renovating them into big whiskey bonds, or whether we're building new for various distillers, and we constantly listen to the various people that were kind of moaning about the fact of the angel shear. Remember, we build things. We know nothing about whiskey.
Yeah.
Cut a long story short, I've got a pal of mine called Ken Hooker, Cardboard Ken, who, what he doesn't know about cardboard and packaging, you could write with a very thick pen on the back of a second class stamp.
Okay.
So we sat down and plied a couple of people with large, copious amounts of alcohol, got information out of them, and the two of us sat down and we come up with an idea that palletized, it seems that palletized casks dry out at the top and then therefore become porous and therefore leak. So our idea was to try and stop that. We were working with a large distiller at the time in Scotland. I chapped on the door of the maturation director, who was in charge of all their maturations, large amount of stores, and asked him for half an hour of his time. We were given half an hour of his time. We took a prototype in, and he went, "You know what, boys? That's a brilliant idea. I love it. But you'll need to change bits here, bits there." I says, "If we change the bits here and bits there and come up with some of them, will you test them for us?" And he went, "Aye, I'll do that." Now, this lad had 30 odd years in the business. So his immediate reaction was, yes, it's a good idea. So we thought, well, we'll go with it. So we went with it. The long and the short of it was, he'd left halfway through the test, but the long and the short of it is that after 42 months, we got our readings from the weights, and it worked. It saved nothing in the first year, nothing after 18 months, started in the second year, and then went like that. I think as the bonneted casks against the control casks, the bonneted cask just remained slightly wetter, and as the control cask went down, ours remained slightly fuller, and it just exponentially it just took off, and it worked.
Right.
So when you say small bets, I mean, you have to remember it's only about 2.5% per annum that they lost, but that 2.5% across an entire industry is a huge amount. I mean, any margin saved at all is absolutely enormous.
Absolutely, but from boys that knew absolutely nothing about alcohol and how it comes in and out of barrels and water, and it was one of those things that you think if you'd been on your own, you'd have never done it because you don't have an idea to bounce off somebody. But if you have an idea to bounce off on somebody says, that might work. And one of the great things is, since that's been like that, the majority of people that we put it to, people in the industry go, you know what, that's a great idea. That could work. And it's because if you turn around an idea and say, not a chance, boys, that's never going to work. You think, well, you're onto the wrong thing. But not one person has said, nah, it's never going to work.
Was it so obvious and so simple a fix that nobody had ever tried it before? Is that what basically happened, Ross? Because I always say, surely everything in whiskey's been tried now. But
I think so.
Well,
basically, because what it's made of, because what we've had, if it's not your main business, you don't rely on this. And it's not our main business. So we've taken it and slowly developed it. And first of all, we use cardboard, but cardboard's no use because the problem with cardboard is it gets wet. And if it gets wet, because it gets wet in these maturation bonds, it gets damp, it just rips. So we had to make it, because cardboard Ken knows everything, we made it out of fiberboard. And fiberboard is tremendously strong.
Yeah.
One of the great things was after 42 months, we retrieved the bonnets because we only got 42 months because the distiller wanted to use the spirit, and he used the spirit, so there was nothing wrong with the spirit. There was no differential between the spirit in the control barrels and our barrels, and I got to save the bonnets. And if you think of it, that was 6 high, so you can imagine the pressure that was on that. They came off. You could take them off and you could have used them again immediately. There was nothing wrong with them because they're made of fiberboard. No taste, nothing.
It's a very simple, easy idea. Now, you say you work on Bonnet units. What would be a typical Bonnet unit for you in terms of casks, storage casks? How many casks would fit in one of your typical Bonnet units?
Well, the biggest one standalone one we made was about 110,000 square feet. So there'd be 6, 7 high. So you're looking at between 100 and 120,000 barrels in there.
Now, I'm going to do some calculations. Right now, we'll do, and I'm on the maths because I'm not Rachel Riley, as you can see.
I can see that. Huh?
You can see that, right? So 120,000 barrels. We'll say they're 200-litre barrels. Let's say we're standard bourbon barrels, right? Now, divide that by 100 gives you 1%. Okay, that's 1%. And on average, we're losing 2.5%. But for easy counting, we'll go with 2%. So multiply that by 2, and you're losing 480,000 litres in year 1. Okay? In year 1, that's what's disappeared. So 500,000 litres of whiskey disappears.
Yeah.
How much of that can you save?
Well, if the world was a perfect round place, you would have said, and an arithmetical calculation over the 42 months was spread out beautifully, you'd have said half of it, or just slightly less. But the problem with the Bonnet is it didn't save anything in the first.
Sorry, year 1. I'll take it as an average. Sorry.
So on average, we looked at on average against the control barrels, we saved just under 50% on the 42 months.
So there's not only is there economic, but there's also environmental advantages to that, Ross, as well.
And one other thing that we found is that when I got the bonnets back, they were damp because they were covered. They were impregnated, I think, with spirit. Now, I would have thought then that if you'd taken those bonnets and put them back on a new cask again, they didn't have to. They were wet already, so they would have acted quicker or more quickly than the ones we put on originally. So they would work. I mean, they can work again. I think they'll do three casks until you need new ones. Sorry.
So over a 4-year period, roughly, you're going to save about 2 million litres out of that Bonnet warehouse that you're talking about.
Yeah, well, we just got it down to what we were saving. On our average saving was just over 5 kilos of the spirit of the produce that was in those barrels, which was cask strength malt whiskey.
I mean, you multiply that across, 100,000 barrels. That's a huge saving. Huge saving.
Well, one of the things that we think that because it doesn't work immediately, whether which ones in Scotland, which ones would you put it on? Because if it's not going to work really in 3 years, and your spirit's going to be a blended spirit, and it's not going to be that much of a, would you put it on them? I'm not sure. That's why we got it over. We got it over to Cavalan, over a boy called Ian Chang. And I mean, that poor man was hounded by me every dinner. It was Ian. And what we did was Cardboard Ken made a mini bonnet, which was about that size, in its own little attaché case, because he likes making things out of cardboard. And I got Ian, I sat him down, had a dram with him, and he went, "That's a great idea, I love it." I said, I would like you to test them for us. I'll send them over to you at Cavalan. So he did, and we got them over last May, June. He put them on. I spoke to him in 2020, in June 2020, says, "How did it go, Ian?" He says, "Well, they worked. They were great." So, "Well, can I get my numbers?" He went, "No, I left Cavalan in March 2020, and therefore I can't get the numbers for you." So that wasn't wonderful. But what I did do, because I thought Ian's opinion was very worthwhile having. I think he's very, in the industry itself, he's highly regarded. So he allowed me to attribute a statement to his name, was the fact that he said it was, I think he said it was something like, it was, glaringly simple, but in his experience of using it, it works. And it was his words, he says, no spirit structure was changed. So it worked with him. And Cavalan was the one I wanted, because Cavalan was, £150 a bottle. He's highly regarded, and it would work quicker because of the heat and the temperature that they've got. Yeah. So, he's starting a new distillery and helping start a new distillery in Japan. So therefore, he said when he gets them going to that stage, he wants to use them. So that was massive. That was massive.
Obviously, Japanese love anything made of origami, so it's bound to go down. It's bound to go down well. Show us that there. It looks like a big boron. It looks like a big boron. It's fantastic looking. It's fantastic looking.
It's got a sort of a myriad of it's got cardboard within it, which is inside the disc, so which allows a sort of labyrinth for the spirit to go through as well.
Yeah,
labyrinth. That's a good word, isn't it? There you go.
What kind of money's in one of them? What kind of money's in one of them? Obviously, it's a volume item. 12 quid.
12 quid.
Yeah.
I mean, this could potentially the margins in savings. I mean, I keep trying to explain to people, when you're setting up a distillery, the business, Justin particularly, when you're setting up a distillery, there's years before you make any money. I mean, as a business model, it's just absolutely crazy. But people seem to still want to do it.
Yeah.
And the margins of saving that amount of money it is incredible. I mean, it is potentially a total game changer for a lot of businesses.
Well, we're getting the stuff over. We've got consignments going over to Mexico, because the tequila industry could be massive. The big problem with the tequila industry, they've got to actually turn them around, because they seem to rack or dunnage all their stuff just now.
Yeah.
So they've got to palletize, because it doesn't work unless you palletize. But then, if you could save an absolute bucket load, because they must be losing a fortune.
Oh, a massive amount.
So what is the difference for them? It's probably just tradition, I would have thought. So if we can get one or two of them saying, yeah, okay, we'll give it a go, stick 6 barrels on. Mm-hmm. I'll send them over. If they pay for the postage, I'll send them for nothing. Stick them on for a year.
There you go, Jose Cuervo. There's an offer.
There you go. Absolutely. I'll send them over, and if they don't work, what have they lost? But if they work for Scotch, they should work for that. We've got them in the Caribbean. We should be getting some results about 3 or 4 months from the Caribbean. I've got to send some over to South Africa, and we're looking at getting some over to Ireland, Finland, Sweden. What else was there?
India.
Fiji, for instance. Fiji.
If you get into India, because Amrit, the sort of the well-regarded Indian distillery, I mean, they have the Greedy Angels. I mean, the oldest Indian whiskey is like 12 years old, because the heat and humidity is so much that it just flies out. So like 12 years, and they have to bottle it, because another year and it'll be gone.
I think it was in Goa, they lose something like 16%.
It's just incredible.
Just like that.
Yeah.
So what I'm trying to do is to try to get a manufacturer in India just now, because I'm kind of guessing further ahead and saying, right, it does work. So what I'd like to do with India is get into India and say, right, lads, there's a few bonnets for you, but when you want them, we're ready to go here, because you cannot export them. They're too big.
Yeah.
They're too heavy.
No, it'll cost you as much.
Too costly.
It'll cost you as much.
Absolutely,
maybe more.
It does. It does far more.
Well, you'll definitely get into India this week because 15% of our podcast audience is in India, Ross.
Is that right?
Yes.
No, yes. I mean, the whole thing, I mean, is potentially a game changer. I mean, if you go to the likes of Irish distillers, right, the big Irish one, I mean, they lost 40,000 bottles a day at the Angels shift. 40,000 bottles a day. You know, it's incredible.
On the basis of that, you wonder why somebody doesn't say, well, you know what, let's give it a go.
Yeah.
We've had boys coming up. It's just a bit of cardboard. It's not just a bit of cardboard. No. If it was just a bit of cardboard, why didn't you think of it if it's just a bit of bloody cardboard? It is what it is. And we've not, you see, the other thing is that I cannot go and tell the distiller it's going to work for you because it might not. All I can say is at the present moment, it seems to work. And it's worked for everybody that we've given it to, and everybody that's come across their desk going, that's a good idea, let's have a go at it, or we didn't want to use it, and or we rack, and if we rack, it doesn't work.
Yeah, but another big name in Scotch whisky has given you an endorsement as well. Charles McLean.
Well, that was another. I got Charlie. I actually caught Charlie. We were going away on a flight, and I caught Charlie at the security desk, and I sat down after the third or fourth time I'd met him, because every time we'd met him, we were both pished at dinner. So I gave him this picture of a barrel with a bonnet on it and something like 13 bottles of whiskey, and he went. I looked. I says, Charlie, can you look at this bonnet thing again for me? Oh yeah, I'll do that. Yeah. He went, that's marvelous. Yes. That's a lovely colour of that whiskey. It's not a bloody whiskey I'm talking about, it's a bonnet. And I went through it all over again and went, bloody hell, that's a brilliant idea. So I was up in his house. Was it last? In fact, I'll tell you what, it was the 18th of February, because his bit of papers on here, it says, this is a remarkable breakthrough in the war against the Angels. Charles McLean, 18th of February, 2020. Brilliant. And then we decided to try some more whiskey that he was tasting, which is it's a nice, what a man he is. He's great fun. Great fun.
Now I can see from behind you that you're a fan of Inverness Caledonian Thistle. A little bit more than just a fan. Now
you would be, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Does that explain why you drink?
Explains why I doesn't sleep very much, and I'm actually only 27. Look at the grey hair.
I'm only 25.
No.
That's because you drink too much through the day, son. That's your problem.
That's a solar panel. Yeah, just for anybody who doesn't know, Ross is actually the chairman of Inverness Caledonian Thistle.
I am.
God love him.
God love me. It's been didn't start me. I spend an awful lot of time on Inverness Cali Thistle, but it is a labour of love. I still have my tattoo there of my team. I did it after our great victory, and as you can see on there, it's the winning. That was the player that put the goal in the back of the net to win to beat Falkirk 2-1 in the 2015 Scottish Cup. So yes, I'm the chairman. An honour, absolute honour. If you can't play for your team, be the chairman of your team.
Aye. You get the blame for everything first, and then it all trickles down.
Sack the board, please. Sack the board.
Ross, it's been an absolute pleasure. And honestly, I think if the industry starts adopting this, I mean, it could be a total game changer and make or break for a lot of smaller distilleries. It really could.
Well, it's interesting. I mean, it's only 12 quid a chuck. They can be used far more than once. They have worked. They haven't tasted. I've got good endorsements from people that know about it. We're on tests in quite a few distilleries, and we will be on far more distilleries across the world very shortly. So we're giving it a wee bit of a push just now, because we've sat on this. It's cost us a fortune in patents. I mean, patenting is unbelievably expensive. We're way into six figures, but you've got to do it. So, if anybody wants, you can find us. You can Google us and find us somewhere. It's interesting. It's
interesting. And the more we get to keep, the better. That's my opinion.
Absolutely, absolutely, and it does work.
Yeah. Simple, easy, and reusable.
Wish you all the best with it, Ross.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Cheers, lads.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.